Someone asked me recently about general body posture when you play the flute, and that made me realize that although I talked pretty extensively about finger technique back in episode 2, Michel Debost and the Three Little Devils, and I talked about hand and wrist and arm position and how you're balancing your flute in the episode called Flute Balance, How to Hold Your Flute. I have not talked specifically about your whole body posture when you're playing, and of course that's quite important. That's what we're going to talk about today. The underlying consideration that we have to deal with when we are either standing or sitting is the asymmetry of our instrument. If we were just to hold our instrument straight in front of us, we would simply want to be pretty symmetric ourselves and leave it at that. But our instrument is so asymmetric, all off to our right like this, that we have to compensate a bit and be a little asymmetric in how we stand. Let me put it this way. If I'm facing you, the audience, and I'm just going to face you straight on, my feet are just in a straight line facing you directly. When I put my flute up, in order to maintain this position, I'm going to have to rotate my right shoulder back a fair amount. There's a pretty good amount of pressure on this right shoulder, and also I can feel in my spine that there's a twist. And so what we like to do as flutists is relieve that twist in our spine and let our shoulders stay more symmetric facing the audience. And the way that you do that is you take a step back with your right foot. And that leaves us able to face the audience and keep our flutes straight forward because our feet now aren't quite straight. You'll see people do different amounts of putting their left foot forward. It might be just your left toe is a little in front of your right foot, or it might be more like fourth position in ballet. You do want your feet under your hips where they can take the weight of your body. Sometimes you see flutists get into this kind of crouching position, but we want to have our weight really balanced on top of our feet. That gives us ability to move and be flexible, but still hold our weight well. You never want to compromise your ability to breathe deeply and support your sound well. Even though our flutes are so asymmetric when we hold them, they're quite light, just a pound or two. And so you often see flutists kind of dancing around when we play. I'm not going to tell you you can't dance and play the flute, but think of your legs almost as a pedestal. You're resting your weight on your legs. You don't want your center of gravity to come up too high and get away from your toes and your feet and thinking of putting your weight through the ground, because if your center of gravity comes up, you're getting rid of access to support. You want to keep access to your lowest abdominal muscles and your support and the strength that you have low in your torso. If you're confused about how far to swivel to the left to take pressure off of this right shoulder when you play, there are a couple of things you can try. My favorite came from my old teacher, Michel Debost, who taught for many years at the Paris Conservatory. He would say if you take your left hand and you grab your right earlobe with it, then you find a very natural position where you've turned your head to the left and your left hand is in a very natural position. You can just bring it down to fit your flute. I like that because I like to do things that are very natural, where we're not thinking too hard and trying to make it work. If you just instinctively grab your right earlobe with your left hand, then it puts you in position. And you can see if I'm standing facing you straight this way head on, and I do that, it leaves me looking off to my left somewhere. So again, I need to swivel around a little bit with my right foot so that I'm facing you while in this position. The other thing that I know is popular for flutists to try to decide how far to the left to look is to just hold your flute up and look at the head joint. Watch it come to you, and you'll naturally move your chin to the left in order to meet that head joint. And then once again, I'm looking off somewhere to the left, so I have to swivel my right foot back a bit in order to make eye contact with you. I was once playing at a National Flute Association convention where many flutists play every year, and Sir James Galway was also playing at that convention. I happened to walk past him once in the big convention hotel while he was standing waiting in line for lunch, and he was standing in this perfect flutist position. He just had his left foot forward a bit, his right foot back. He was standing with very good posture and just looked like you could walk past and hand him a flute and he'd be ready to grab it and play. The key here is that even though we're standing in this slightly asymmetric position in order to accommodate our quite asymmetric instrument, the goal really is to keep everything as natural as possible. I can look at you while keeping my shoulders relaxed and as natural as possible, and I can keep my spine more straight and aligned. If I put both of my feet in a straight line like this and face you, not only do I swivel my shoulder back, but I feel a big twist midway down my back in my spine. If I put my right foot back, it eases that twist in my spine. It feels much more relaxed. We want to access our rib cage. We want it to be able to be open and expanded. We want instant, easy access to our lungs from the top down to the very bottom depths of our lungs. That's going to be hard if you're facing straight forward and you have to twist like this. It kind of closes off and twists your rib cage and your ability to access your lungs. If I put my right foot back a little bit, I can feel my rib cage opening up and I can feel better access to my lungs. Our spines are so long, they can cause us all kinds of trouble. We want to think of stretching, elongating our spines, and keeping them in the most natural position we can. It's very popular for flutists to talk about pretending that we are a little marionette puppet, that we have strings coming up out of our heads, stretching and elongating our entire spine. The other nice thing about thinking that is that it puts your head in a good position. Your head tilts down just the tiniest bit, and it puts you in a good position to get the air down into your head joint. So your spine is stretched to be as nice and tall as you can make it. You think of a long, long neck and stretched spine, but with your chin slightly tilted down. You want to be sure that your lower back also feels very free. Around your hips and your lower back is a place that it's possible to hold a lot of tension. So be sure that you release and relax that. And one of the most important ways to do that is to be sure that your knees are not locked. So even though you're thinking of stretching, elongating, being tall, you keep your knees from locking so that you can keep really relaxed in your lower back and around your hips. Flutists are professional breathers. We have to get everything out of the way of our ability to breathe and support. If I have the choice between sitting and standing, I will always choose to stand. If I'm playing as a soloist, of course I'll stand. But if I'm playing in a small ensemble, maybe a trio or quartet, I will stand as long as the other members of the group are willing to do that. But obviously when you're in a larger ensemble like an orchestra, you're going to sit. And in this case, your chair simply takes the place of the pedestal that is your legs. You sit squarely on the chair and let it take your weight so that you can breathe deep. Here we have a chair. Now, if I sit on this chair, and again, if I have the chair facing straight forward and I just sit on it, I'm going to be faced with the same dilemma where I get a twist in my spine. If I'm sitting straight forward and I put my flute up, my right shoulder is twisted really far back, and so I need to alleviate that twist that's in my spine. What you do here is you move your chair like you would move your legs. So the left side of the chair is going to be farther forward than the right side of the chair. Now that I'm sitting on this slight diagonal, I can put my flute straight ahead and I take the pressure off of my spine and my right shoulder. Next time you go to a symphony concert, when the musicians are not on stage, especially after they've played, once the flutists stand up and leave the stage, look at how they've adjusted their chairs. Often what you'll see is that the members of the woodwind section have chairs facing straight forward, except for the flute chairs, and they'll be twisted a little bit like this, where the left side of their chair is more forward than the right side of their chair. The last idea I want you to take away from all of this about position when you play is that as my position got better and better as I was a flute student and then a young professional, the main thing I noticed is that it feels good. It should feel good to play the flute because we're breathing deep, We're standing in the most natural possible position. We're not in any hunched over or strange, contorted, stiff positions. Breathe deep if it feels good and relaxed and easy to breathe, and you can feel your weight going through the floor, sinking down into the ground as though you are a tree. Chances are you found a good flute position.